Thank you. Very good afternoon. Hopefully, I will not make you further sleepy after lunch. Yeah, it's always a great pleasure to come back to Crawford School. I left here 50 years ago, and before that, I did my PhD on the legal and patent groups. China system. At that time, I focused on core industry. And now I focus more on energy transitions. So I really joking that my early career, I tried to make more core to actually support China's economic growth. Because I graduated from the China University of Mining Technology, which is a core industry university, and work for Ministry of Coal, and all the way we try to make more coal. But in the last 10 years, we try to get rid of coal for better environment. So that's how things changed, even in 3 decades. We see my age, the 3 decades. Things change. And for my research, I think in the past 5-10 years, my primary research, particularly when I come to UTS, I'm more focused on energy transitions. And including, if you look at the logo on the right-hand side, I initiated the Society for International Society for Energy Transition study. The purpose is to facilitate multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder dialogue and collaboration. I believe that energy transition is not an academic job or any single stakeholder job. It's all our common challenge and job. So we created this society and provide a free membership to allow poor people can join and benefit from that. I work with the UN for many years. I put a last slide for something, but that's a brief. And for today, I'm talking about carbon market, actually, which Professor Zhang is specialized. I happen because in the past, actually, 5 years, long time work on 3 papers looking at China's carbon market issue. So I took this opportunity to report what we have seen and finding. I will just a very brief background information. I think in the morning we already discussed a few times about China's carbon market. Essentially, we can say the China carbon market have 2 components. One component is called ETS pilot. That when China start to prepare for carbon market, as always, across the river by touchstone, they started with the ETS pilot. So initially study in 2013 at 7, and then at Fushuan. So either 7 or 8, when you're talking about carbon market, they use provinces to test, but also have some city, particularly like Shenzhen. We have both Guangdong market, but also Shenzhen market. But most others are provincial markets. Some are good, some are not that good. For example, if you look at all those trading, you will see that I think in the morning, Chris will mention that large market, which I will mention. Even there are a lot of carbon emissions covered by the market, but the trading, you can see this is a pilot market. Many days actually there's no trading. It's our study we try to investigate a few issues. First, whether the ETS pilot has been effective in terms of market mechanism, and second, what is the current performance of the national market? That's my actually next step. Next slide, we are talking about national market. As you always watch a Chinese economy, know that after the success of all our sets of partners, we will be rolled out. So this is a national market, which this morning we mentioned March 2021. That's for trading part, but actually the emissions that are accountable actually for 2019 and 2020. Very, very special situation is that first, we focus only on power generation sector. Unlike the ETS pilots, we allow the province to determine which sector they are put under. So they're quite diversified. But that's exactly the beautiful thing of the pilots, because we don't know which sector, if we roll it out nationwide, which sector we should pick up, as they allow the province to start from 2013 to 2019, when they roughly make the allowance for national market. They start with the power sector. And the power sector, the reason was power sector because it almost accounts 40% of China's total CO2 emissions. So it either currently, I think the 5.1 billion tons of coal. China itself probably emission 11 billions of CO2 emission, about 14 billions of GHG emission. So the coal generation sector, roughly 40%. And that's why China says it's the largest emission, but just purely in terms of coverage. Put it another way, you would always argue the largest market, but not necessarily in terms of performance. That's the reason why we have the study we report below. And also we work on in the past years, we work on our third paper is looking at the assessment performance of the national ETS. The reason is that we just complete the so-called second compliance circle. I will next slide we will explain a few things. First, in terms of cap, the carbon market is different from most other developed countries in that the cap is not fixed, it's intensity based. So it means that you produce more, you will have a higher cap rather than what we familiar with in EU ETS. It's a fixed cap. This is total amount. You cannot go above, but we are actually intensity based. But intensity based, they also do some not just based on so-called grandfather where you produce in the past. They have actually a benchmark. If, for example, if the coal-fired power plant and a certain category, you have based on what's the benchmark for the average, then you give the list. This will avoid actually company to emission more to get a higher emissions and get a more relaxed regulation. So this is something. So there will be probably some concerns that China could be emission more for that, but actually you wouldn't because it's an average intensity. And the second reason I mentioned why I jump here, the compliance periods are 2 years, not 1 year. Not say this year we look at unlike our tax, we have to return our tax for our previous financial year. For the carbon market is every 2 years. And also similar to what we tax return in Australia, we only calculate tax after the end of the financial year. So when we start this year, we took a second compliance period. That's for 2021 and 2022. Even we set the standard, but how much you are allowed to emit only be revealed after you did everything. So it's exposed after this. So that's one of the reasons caused some challenge. And the sector, as I mentioned, national ETS will focus on the power generation sector. Our last paper we presented, we see what should be the way to going forward if we want to expand the power market. So yeah, a few background information that even the central government makes the policy, but actually how much emission, all the numbers actually determined by provincial government. The provincial government played a relatively key role, more like a direct regulation and enforcement, but the central government set the policy. It's more like actually Australia legislative policy and the execution are separate, but here is in terms of more like a different level of government, and also all those registration, trading, and even CCER certified emission reduction. They are operated by different platforms. I think Chris in the morning mentioned that different institutional work. These are roughly the background about what the system look like. This is the intensity that I mentioned, so-called benchmark. It's based on the average, not based on individual firms' history data. This is just a few numbers to show what the numbers they are actually using. So some side effect, I think Moni Chris also mentioned that the price moving good. So the first, the gray part is 2021 when they started the trading is only half year for the compliance for the previous 2 years. And after that, you see the trading for the last 2 years. I think one of the issue, you can see the price are going up, carbon price are going up. I think Moni mentioned that it touched to 100 yuan per ton, roughly 20 Australian dollar per ton. So overall, you see the price are steady going up. This is exactly what expecting, because they don't want it dramatically going up. Later I will explain a few institutional setting up to avoid dramatic going up. Because once the dramatic go up, the pressure to the firm will be too high. There could be some unexpected factor. So, but compared with the EU price, it's still much lower. So that is one of the study we will look at whether it's effective or not. The issue we will investigate. If you look at the compliance, they said 100%, but I will explain. There is some relaxed scheme left for the compliance. Yeah, here I will mention that what 100% compliant, but still price is not very significant and still not very active trading if you look at the carbon market. Because first, more like exemptions. So the gas plants, if they need to surrender or compliance, they are limited to whatever allocated to them. So even they're short of, they wouldn't be asked to buy more allowance to fulfill that. And also there is a liability, even coal generator. If the shortfall compare what being allocated and what actually emitted, even more than 20%, they're capped actually, you will only cap to 80%. Put a cap, put some exemption, and also in the past, the recent regulation about the past allow you borrow from the future. But borrowing is good, frankly, for financial market. But at the current state, it's not financial market purpose. It's just primarily giving more ability. And also the fine for a violation is very limited. All those things actually lead to the market not as probably significant as people are expecting. Let's come on to our study. We first look at national market. A key question investigate whether the carbon market, given the price, given the compliance, whether it actually provide economic incentive for firms to reduce emission. What we estimate here is a quantitative regression, essentially to look at for firms who have a surplus allowance, whether they indeed to sell them for profit. And the message here is clear, very positive. So it means that the more allowance I have, I tend to sort that. And also for the second compliance period, the incentive become much stronger. So in that sense, you provide the economic incentive for firms to ride economics exactly at what we are expecting. But whether this kind of market, sorry, I think there's I get confused. I think I get confused with the why. So how to calculate go back? Just I think. Yeah. So I think from here. Whether the market actually be affected a lot, as you see that even we set our market, set the trade and regulations, but whether actually is affected a lot, there is always a lot of discussion. And this slide is our second paper. We showed the first paper is national because we have a lot of data and we are in the progress. So we pretend not to show all the details about national market. And then we go to the pilot market, whether actually the market need to or be effective. This is the standard we replicate what in the literature, and the conclusion that is being effective in reduce emissions. So you can look at either the parallel tree or the econometrics. They find that with the difference, you look at firms on the ETS and not on the ETS with all the control, all those technical terms, they find it significant, and they conclude that the carbon market is effective. But I doubt. I think if you look at the actual trading, this is trading for all the power market. I think on the right-hand side, you see that there are only very few trade happen, and most happen in bulk trade. So it means that if you look at actually probably we look at a concentration on the largest top 20 largest trading, they're actually 80% or 100%, only down by a few big size of trading. Means that the price shouldn't be that effective. You know, on the right hand side, I use my previous when I studied gas market. I use a Chung ratio, the ratio between trading volume divided by actually compliance. So in the case, in Chinese case, you see most time it's below 10%. But for your reference, if I have liquid benchmark gas market, I don't have carbon market data, gas market data. We are looking for 15. That's 1,500%. Yeah, you have did a lot of very liquid trading in order to review the price and finally you deliver it. But in case we are looking about few percent. I think the European is about much bigger, 10 times bigger than this. So it means that on the one hand, you see the econometric. Yeah, wait a minute. Econometric measure is effective. On the other hand, reality means not effective. So what we did, we hypothesized that the trade or carbon market did reduce emission, but didn't reduce the marginal abatement cost. So we estimate a firm marginal abatement cost and look at whether the ETS pilot actually leading to cost convergence after trading firm. Because once the trading indeed effective, the marginal cost should be convergence. So that's our second paper. And our results, this only show I learned economics from AU. So, and our result actually is not effective in terms of cost reduction. Means that it's effective, it's same as a administrative policy, but not effective as a market instrument, which is supposed to be done. And then our last paper actually was published first. We look at what's the roadmap to roll out the carbon market. The dark one means what the government planning. They look at the big emitters sector, and this one our optimizer. They look at if in order to minimize our compliance costs, we should include whoever have the lower marginal cost into the market, and we have a complete different sector priority here. I think the key takeaway is that the market run relatively well, but it's effective even in emission reduction, but that's not the purpose of market mechanism. Market mechanism need to reduce the compliance cost. On that note, it was not effective. However, the market still have significant importance because the building all the infrastructure and the experience and everything that need for the Chinese market to take over. And I think the reason we started Chinese market because the developing country still have an increased emission, how they build their market and look after the carbon neutrality and other. I think the Chinese model probably more suitable for other developed countries when they face a similar change and challenge. That's the end. Last slide is just the society. I will not go any details. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Okay. I'm very happy to come here to very briefly introduce what we have done in the past 2 to 3 years. Okay, regarding the energy transitions in China, with support from the power grid companies. Okay, the following several parts will be included. First one is the energy transformation openness for power grid companies, and followed by the dynamic network tariffs. And the dynamic network tariffs in practice, especially in European countries. And next would be some key issues of the dynamic network tariffs. And the last is the challenge is about dynamic network tariffs. Okay. We know that in recent years, the economic development in China has been significantly slowed down. But the GDP data released by the National Bureau of the Statistics of China always very good or encouraging. And actually, most well-educated people don't believe that data. Okay, but the peak power demand and the electricity consumption have been maintaining a relatively high increase in recent years, especially in some developed province in the east part. Okay. And the real estate by the power grid company are much more reliable than those by the National Bureau of the Statistics of China. Okay, and traditionally, the electricity consumption data are used to reflect the economic development status. Okay, but now the case has changed. Okay, there are some possible reasons regarding the mismatch between the economic development date and the electricity consumption date. We have identified the 3 aspects. First one is the effect of the energy transition, and the second one is hot summer, and the third one is winter. Okay, we know that the electrification level of terminal consumption in China is still very low. Currently around 35%. Okay, there is still a large room to promote. Okay, and the air conditioning load increased rapidly in recent years. Okay, and in Hangzhou, where our university is located. Okay, in the summer, in the past 3 years, the air conditioning load is around 40% of the total demand. Okay. And the third issue would be the widespread use of the electrical vehicles, which demand very high power demand. Okay. Regarding the energy and the power transition process in China, basically we have considered several aspects. The first one is the supply side. Okay. In China, we are trying to achieve green transformation. We are meeting the growth of the energy consumption demand. Okay. Regarding the demand side, the green production and the consumption patterns are widely formed. Okay, and the electrification supports the lower carbon transformation of the thermal consumption. Okay, and in these two aspects, the power grid company could play a very important role because the power network is the main carrier of the clean energy allocation. Okay. Now let's see what support could be expected from the power grid company. Okay, the first one is the demand side management implementation, and the next one would be the dynamic network tariff implementation. Okay, there are some requests to attain the support from the power grid company. The first one is the extended use of smart meters. Okay, only the smart meters are widely used. Then we could get the minute level load demand data, and then the demand management could be implemented. Okay, and the dynamic network tariff could also be done. Okay, now let's see how the dynamic network tariff we could support the energy transition. Okay, we know that the ever increasing use of smart meters paves the ways to clean energy transition. Okay, in some developed countries such as Norway, as the percentage of smart meters is more than 90%. Or in China, in the east part, okay, some developed province, the smart meters have been widely used, such as Zhejiang, Jiangsu, and Shanghai. Okay. And the smart meters is actually most important because if we don't have some meters, we could get the demand in minutes level. Okay. The second one is regarding the public smart charging. Okay, we know that in the past around 10 years, EVs have been developed very quickly in China, and the charging demand by EVs is increasing very quickly. And in Zhejiang province, the total electricity consumption by EVs is around 10% of the total electricity consumptions. Okay, the current network tariffs often send mixed signals to the market participants. Here, the market means electricity market, and not always reflecting the need of today's energy system from the government, from the regulators, and from the power grid companies. Okay, so it is highly demanded to redesign the electricity tariff system to provide more incentives for the customers to adjust their electricity use so as to support the energy transition. And up to now, there is no specific tariff design that could satisfy our customers or achieve our objectives at the same time. So, because the requirements from the government, from the regulator, from the power grid company, or from customers are not consistent. Okay, a specific tariff system should be designed in response to the questions that governments, regulators, power grid companies, and network operators need to answer. Okay. And designing and implementing dynamic network tariff is a workable option for supporting the energy transition. So next, I will focus on the dynamic network tariffs. Okay, we know that in the 1980s, the electricity market was built in some developed countries, including Australia. Okay. The electricity market in Australia was built in 1998, and currently in most developed countries, electricity markets have been implemented and in operation. Okay. After the power industry restructuring, the transmission and distribution sector is still remain monopolized. So we need to study the electricity tariff. Okay, basically, in the terminal electricity price, the third part will be included. The first part is from the energy, which is actually associated with the generation from the generation companies. The next one would be the charges for the network use, the transmission network, distribution network. And the third part would be the taxes charged by the government. Okay, and our study is focused on the network aspect. Okay, and it has been observed that the peak consumption is strongly related to the volatile variable, like temperatures. And we have also found that there is a mismatch between the calendar peak hours and the peak hours of consumption we use to design the tariff system. Okay, you can see very clear from the forms that, and the red line is the peak hours. Okay, sit in the calendar, which is used to design the tariffs. But the black one is the real peak hours. So service are largely mismatch. Okay, so that then, and it's believed that dynamic pricing schemes could be used to minimize the mismatch. Okay, and this slide shows the benefit of the dynamic pricing for market participants, including the consumers, including retailers, including the distributed system operator and transmission system operator, also the generation companies and the state society. Okay, the benefits are perspective from the short term and the long term. Okay, so there are different kind of benefit and benefit to different market participants. Okay, this slide shows the components, including the dynamic price, including the regional cost components, cost drivers, dynamics, events, and active demand. Okay, and we have summarized the attributes included in each item. Okay, and this one shows the goals and the attributes of different tariff systems currently used in some different countries, including US and other countries. Basically, they could be divided into the time of use the pricing. Oh, sorry, somebody call me. Okay. Okay, time of use pricing, TOU, dynamic rate or real-time pricing is what's called RTP, which is normally used in electricity market environment. And the corrective consumption pricing, CTP, which is used in US, which includes the corrective peak pricing and the corrective peak rebate, and lastly, the consumption based. Okay, there are some object regionals and the applicable domain, also the customers. Okay, so it's chosen in these slides. Okay, and we also summarize the number of times blocks for different kind of dynamic network tariff and the frequency of the price update. Okay, shown here. And this one shows the tariff components and the charging base, including the fixed rate and the capacity-based rate and the volume-based rate. Okay, here the fixed rate means that the electricity price is fixed, is not dependent on the time of use. Where the capacity rate means that if the charge would be based on the capacity of your devices, where the volume is based on the energy you have ever used. Okay, there are some advantages and disadvantages that are associated with this schemes. This slide shows that for different kind of network tariffs, there are different level of benefit and risks for the users. Okay, so we actually have many options. We have to balance the benefit and risks. Okay, and this one shows the principle to design the network tariff. Okay, we have to follow some principles, including the cost reflectivity, non-discriminatory, cost recovery, non-discriminatory. Okay, there's a transparent, protectable, and simple. Okay, so it will be very hard to take all this requirement into consideration to design electricity tariff system could be used in practice. Okay, and the dynamic tariff is actually a system which could reflect the actual use in real time. Okay, you know in the currently tariff systems we are mainly charged based on the capacity and the energy use. Okay, energy is dependent on the time period. Okay, but can also reflect the actual load demand. Or the dynamic tariff would include the power-based rate. Power-based means that we could consider the current load demand. Okay, if the demand is high, they will charge more. Okay, if not low, they will charge less. Okay, for example, if there are two customers, their capacity is the same, their energy is the same, but their load demand is different. But in that case, if we're using the current tariff system, they will be charged the same. But if we consider the load demand, okay, and the one with even load demand will charge less. Okay, the one with large difference between the peak demand and the volatile demand will be charged more. Okay, this is the fundamental idea to design the dynamic tariff. Okay. Okay, I'll not get to the details. Okay, the major problem is how to design the tariff based on the power demand, not only based on the capacity and energy. Okay, they don't have many schemes to charge it based on the capacity and the energy use, but less has been done based on the power demand. Okay, actually there are some difference between the dynamic tariff and the dynamic electricity price. Okay. Dynamic tariff is focused on the network, is the transmission network and the distribution network. It is still a tariff system for the monopoly company. Okay, so we know that transmission grid, transmission company and network and the distribution side is still a monopoly company. So the tariffs must be tightly regulated. Or for the dynamic electricity price, that is formed by competition. Okay, let's check my time. Okay. So there are some requests for the dynamic tariff. Okay, the most important is the widely use of smart meters. Okay, if there is no smart meters, we cannot implement the demand side management. We cannot implement the dynamic tariff because we cannot get the unit level load demand. Okay, in the past time, we can only get the energy use on a monthly basis. In that case, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to implement the dynamic tariff. So, okay, and we have to make sure that the load demand data could be sent back to the customers. We must make sure that the customers would know how much power they are using, so that we could provide the price incentives to make sure that by adjusting their load demand, they could have a benefit. Okay. Now let's very briefly look at what's the current practice of the dynamic tariff. Okay, actually, the dynamic tariff have been widely used in European countries. Okay. And now 11 countries has implemented different kinds of network tariff. Okay, including Norway, Portugal, Spain, UK. Okay, and in the US. Okay, US has several kinds of similar tariff systems, but they are not directly the so-called dynamic tariff. Okay, so I'm not going to detail here. Finland has done much research work regarding the design of network tariffs. Okay, basically including three parts: the basic fee, that is based on capacity; the energy-based fee, that is based on how much electricity you have used. The last one would be the power rate. Power rate is based on the peak demand. Okay, if your peak demand is high, you'll be charged lower. Okay. Okay, so because of time limitation, I'm not going to get details regarding the detailed design. Okay, of that in Finland. Okay. Okay, now let's look at what is going on in China. In China, we charge the capacity fee or basic fee for larger industry and business customers, and we don't charge for the residential customers. For the residential customers, they only need to pay the energy-based fee, based on how much you use the electricity. So this is okay. Okay, so regarding diamond network in China, it's still a very long way to go. We are studying the schemes, but we explained that we still need a few years to implement. Okay, so lastly, regarding some key issues. First one is the smart meters, very important. And the next important is the ICT sequence to send the load demand signals and the price signals to the customers. Okay, this one shows the smart meter rollout rate. You can see that in some countries, smart meters have been widely used. In Norway, it's 100%. With some other countries, it would be very low. Okay, in China, in the east part, the smart meter have been used more than 60%. Okay, there are some criteria to assess the network tariff. If we design a network tariff system, we have to evaluate how good it is or how bad it is. So we design some criteria to do that. Okay, I'll look at the details. Regarding the effect, you could evaluate from several aspects, including the condition management. One that if the capacity of transmission is not enough, you have to impose the condition management, which could be done by using the dynamic tariff. Next one is the cost recovery. We have to make sure that the costs associated with the T&D company must be fully recovered. Okay, there are some challenges for that. The first one is the lack of interest in demand side response from the customer side. So we need to provide sufficient incentives, but it's not easy to identify how much incentive is enough. Okay, and for the TSO and the DSO and the policymakers, there is the requirement regarding the systems. It must be simple and scientific. Okay, and the network loss and the customer management must be taken into account. We have to consider the integration of renewable energy resources and electric vehicles. Okay, and from the regulatory aspect, okay, the cost coverage and the requirement must be considered. Okay, okay, so then I'm sorry that I have used more time since scheduled. Okay, okay. Okay.
Thank you. I'm truly honored to be invited. As an econ student, I heard about this forum a long time ago. So when Professor Zhou invited me to be here, I'm really thrilled. So even though I have to teach yesterday afternoon in Singapore, I take the red eye fly to here. So and then go through some connection problems in Sydney. So if I fall asleep during my presentation, please pardon me. I'm here as Professor Jiao suggested to share my insights, observation on China's energy transition, some current standards and future challenges. As we all know, energy transition is one of the most important tasks China is carrying out right now and in the near future. All right, so one indicator is since early this year, two words become very popular and important in China. One is called high quality development, 高质量发展. Another one is new quality, productive forces, 新质生产力, right? And these two concepts was put forward in January of this year. Actually, during the 11th group study of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee. So if we dig into this very important group meeting, we find out, in addition to bring up these two concepts, right? We have some definition about those two concepts, or try to describe the key features of those two concepts. We find out those words, right? So green development is the foundation of high quality development. And new quality productive forces are inherently green productive forces. So following this statement, we mentioned, carbon emission, carbon neutrality. We mentioned green manufacturing, of course. We mentioned green energy transition. And following this group meeting, group study, in the second group study of this year, in February. So the theme is focusing on energy transition. So during this group study, we see those keywords: energy security, clean energy, green and low carbon transformation, high quality development of China's new energy system. And we have to make sure clean and safe energy provision. So those are some indication. In near future, China is going to list energy transition as one of the top priorities. So let's look at what we have been doing in this area and the goal. And this picture is from Professor Zhang Xiliang published a paper in a very famous Chinese magazine, but it's kind of blurry. Let me try to convey the same message from this colorful graph, right? And this graph actually from an international organization called International Energy Agency, right? So similar to Professor Zhang, they try to answer the question, if China is serious about carbon peak, carbon neutrality problems, China's electricity structure has to make what kind of change? What kind of change we have to make, right? If we can tell from the left side, right side graph, in 2020, still roughly 70%, if more accurately, that's 68% of the electricity was generated from fossil fuel, mostly coal, right? But 40 years later, in 2060, we see this black area totally disappeared. We still have some fossil fuel-based fire, power plants, but it has to operate with CCUS. So the majority of electricity is going to be generated from renewable sources. Of course, this green area include solar, wind, as well as hydropower. But if we exclude hydropower, it's very clear wind energy and solar energy will account for 70% of the total electricity generation. That's what we have to do in the next 40 years. And if you consider the fact in the next 40 years, China's energy consumption will grow like we see in the left panel from about 7 to 60. Right? I don't want to get into the translation because my mind, my brain is running slow here. So of course we are going to double our energy consumption, and on that basis, we are going to change from 70% of fossil fuel to 70% renewable energy. Think about the big transition over here. So another point another message I want to point out from the left, from this figure is, you see this blue area, right? Even in 2030, we don't see this blue area using our eye, right? But in 2060, this blue area accounts for 20% of the total electricity consumption. So this area is hydrogen. Okay, so let's see what we do in the last 10 years. You see the groups. of wind generation capacity and solar generation capacity in China. It's very rapid. It's surprised everybody. And I make a note here. In August 2024, this year, it was declared the total installed capacity of wind power and solar power exceeded 1.2 billion kilowatt. So why is this number so important? Because this number was brought up by President Xi. He said, after he put forward the goal, carbon neutrality, he said, we are going to develop wind generation and solar generation in the capacity of 1.2 billion kilowatt. But by when? By 2030. In other words, we achieved this goal 6 years ahead of the planned time, right? That's how quickly we do this. So that's some good news, right? So far, so good. So let's think about the challenges. Look at the challenges. On the left-right corner, last year in December, we see, this kind of news very frequently in China's newspaper. So basically, translate into English tells us in this county, from 9 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there is no solar generation, which means during this period of time, the solar power is very good. We can generate electricity from solar panel, but we cannot utilize the electricity from these solar panels. Basically, we stop, integrate those solar generation into the power system. It's wasted. Okay, and if we look at this data, so this piece of data tells us, for the solar generation, how much solar generation has been utilized in China. I'm not claiming those numbers are accurate, but those two tables are from the same organization. I try to make the statement is comparable between 2 years. But last year in February, this number is 98.9%. But this year, you see the number already falling down to 93.4. It's decreased by 5%. That's a lot because that's nationwide decrease, right? And let's look at this figure. So in our energy statistic yearbook, of course, you can get the number for solar generation during each year. Of course, you have another number tell you the solar power generation capacity, right? If you take these two numbers and divide the first number by the second number, the unit will be hours. It tells us for each solar panel how many hours has been utilized during a year, right? So if we look at this orange line in the bottom, that's solar in China, it's about 1,000 hours. But if we look at the same line in the US, it's very close to 2,000 hours. If we look at wind in China, that's the blue line, it's pretty close to 1,500 hours a year, right? But if we look at the US data, it's close to 3,000 hours. That's a big difference. Of course, we can explain this gap, because the solar power is stronger in the US because some natural condition over there, wind power. But if this natural condition cannot fully explain this gap, there is one message, it's very clear. In China, actually, we have a challenge in integrating renewable power into the grid system, into the power system. So we have one indication. This year, we have our third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee, CPC, Central Committee. That's a very big, very important conference, right? Very important meeting. And if you look into the document, regarding energy, the topic of energy, there are only two sentences. One sentence is we have to establish a mechanism for clean and efficient use of coal. And another sentence is we have to improve policies and measures for the integration and regulation of renewable energy. So the message is very clear. So now China's issue, in energy transition is not manufacturing of solar panel, wind turbine anymore. We have huge production capacity in those two areas, even can meet the total demand of all the countries on this planet. But the critical issue is how can we utilize those electricities? Why we have those troubles? I don't want to get into the details. We all know there is an intermittency issue, right? The wind and solar generation. You may say, well, we have a solution for that because we can utilize energy storage, right? Energy storage is increasing in China also crazily. Let's look at this piece of data. That's the largest battery manufacturers in the world, CATL, right? We all know this company. And in 2020, the energy storage system, the business revenue from this line, this business unit, is only about 2 billion Chinese yuan, 2 billion. But if we look at this table, and in 2020, in just 2 years, the revenue from this BU increased to 45 billion Chinese yuan, increased by 22 times in 2 years. That's how crazy it is. That's the largest battery producer in China. So my point is, we have this phenomenon. It's conditional on we already try to utilize battery energy storage, battery-based energy storage as much as possible. There is no problem. We have manufacturing capacity in that regard as well. So still, we have difficulties. So we have those challenges. So what's the way forward? There are some observations here. The first one will be hydrogen industry, hydrogen energy development. We have all this, policy. But one thing I want to point out is I make this quotation actually. This is a translation from this news report. But the point I want to make is, every year our prime minister will make a report in front of the National Congress, right? And this year, when we talk about the future industry and strategic industry, the first one, guess what, is hydrogen. And hydrogen never appeared in this. Okay, we have hydrogen industry, and not only hydrogen. Actually, we are talking about hydrogen-based fuels, like methanol, ammonia. All of this has been emphasized. If you have time, you look at this article. This article, interestingly, published by the the CPC committee in National Energy Agency, published this article in the People's Daily, Renewable, and talking about in the future energy consumption. In the past we talked about energy consumption should be replaced, should utilize electricity as much as possible. But now the statement is we should utilize electricity plus hydrogen, methanol and ammonia, etc. That's very significant change. All right, second one, we want to focus on customer side microgrid system. And this one is published, last month, October 10th. It's about regulation on the development and construction of distributed PV, solar power generation. Basically, talk about this, commercial and residential side. If you develop a wind or solar power, you cannot feed your electricity into the grid. You have to utilize by yourself, right? So that's another direction. And the third one will be the virtual power plants. There's some demand side management. So we have many examples. Even this company is a charging station company. But this charging station company tried to utilize millions of electricity cars hooked up on a system to do demand side management. I went to this company in last July, and brilliant company, they wonderful work. And another one I have to mention, following last talk is the electricity spot market reform. In China right now, only 3 provinces have electricity spot market. My hometown Shandong province, Shanxi province, and Guangdong province. And last year in December, the National Energy Agency published a regulation claiming we have to accelerate the development of electricity spot market. Why this is very important? Because you see on this spot market, you have this negative electricity price. At the same time, you have very high electricity price. Why? Because we have so many renewable energy in the system. Why this is very important? Because it will provide business model for many companies that engaged in virtual power plants development, engaged in demand side management. So that is very important. So in summary, so we have achieved a lot in the past, but the most critical challenge when we talk about the future about China's energy transition is we have to creatively develop mechanism to make sure the electricity we generated from the wind turbine and solar power can actually be utilized. So in order to do that, we have some new patterns, reform, regulations. I list 4 of them here. So this effort definitely demands collaboration, not only between scientists, engineers, but also from the public policy side, from economists. We have to design regulatory forces and have to develop a financial incentive to make all these stakeholders work together for this goal. China's energy transition is very critical. The bottom line is China emits 1/3 of the carbon in this world. Thank you very much.
So, any questions? Yeah. Thanks very much, Sir. Thanks for your presentation. Actually, my question is for Professor Shen. Your key takeaway is currently China's carbon market is not very efficient to reduce carbon abatement costs. I was wondering, maybe asking for your opinion, how do you think about currently the carbon price? Do you think it's too low, even it's increasing? Or how do you think is any government suggested carbon price? For example, in Australia, the government wants to buy all the carbon credit facility created eventually, or even give sort of limit or price range. Do you think that will be a solution?
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, as I mentioned, the reason I explained why there are so many exemptions, all the things, they are contribute to that. But as I said, the key for the Chinese government probably not have a big bang, say we have carbon price, you were forced to do this and that, and it could be something the cost out of control. So that's when they set all those step by step, allow them to do that. It's in terms of efficiency, it's not relevant to price level, it's a price signal. Our results have some very funny, very interesting finding. For example, state-owned company tend to not trade it compared with non-state-owned, key state-owned company. And those participants, the pilot market tend to not to trade it. We explain likely because they are expecting future prices were going up, because they allow actually the credit to be borrowed around. So those are the very on Euro fund the idea explained, but our case is not the level, it's actually the price mechanic. But I understand, as I say, it's incremental proceed to allow the market, people get used to market and let the market to work without cause big shock to the industry and company here. Thank you.
I do yes. So is okay. Is there another question that you are going to be second?
Today's okay. Yes. Thank you for the presentation. And my question is addressed to Professor Xunpeng. So, Professor Xu, what do you think the China's carbon market impact on China's regional carbon inequality? I mean, especially how the carbon market could realize the carbon compensation and the inter-regional compensation, especially from the coastal provinces that generate the high value added in themselves, but at the cost of the high carbon intensity of the goods that produced in the inland provinces. I mean, how this carbon market can help with that? Thank you.
Just very quick, we reminded me of another paper. Just realized we look at the alternative allocation of the total emission. I think at the conclusion of that paper, it said that the so-called alternative allocation will not contribute very much to that, and some of the inequality we have to address outside the carbon market. So let the carbon market work on their way, but we need to add other social economic measures to look after the inequality and other issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question is just to Professor Lin. First, thank you so much for joining us after this lecture. I guess my question is that China's renewable energy usage and the US case. So based on that comparison, I wonder whether you have some lessons that you can share from US experience. I mean, what did you do better, and then how did China kind of learn from it in this area? Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, one of the factors that contribute to this difference is China actually. There is one aspect that is very different from the US. Look at our wind generation, solar generation, finally, in the West and in the North. But the energy consumption really is in the East and in the South. So the problem is we have to feed this electricity in the grid and make long distance transition. So in the past, we tried to build up energy storage in the West, but it turned out it's not very cost effective. So we have some setback from the business sector. So if we look at the data, really is in the Western provinces we have more this integration problem compared to the East. That's probably why in China we really encourage this distributed generation, microgrid development. So the government actually put some regulation there, forcing companies to develop this area. By the way, I think that's a very promising area. My colleague and I actually established, we're trying to develop a teaching platform. We're asking our students, we give you some basic information, how strong the sun power is, your electricity consumption curve during the day, what's the peak and valley price during the different period of time in the day, so they can do this optimization. We find out, if we do this, we significantly improve their efficiency and their cost also can be reduced by 30%. Of course, that's only numerical simulation.
Thank you very much. A question to Professor Wayne. In one of the charts you presented, is actually very interesting. The benefit is associated with the high risk. So that's raised a lot of uncertainties. I'm wondering whether the dynamic pricing scheme actually can help you to change it a bit. Otherwise, the risk is always there with the benefit. Thanks.
Okay, actually, that figure is for the customers. Okay. If we use the dynamic network, then the customer will have more options. Okay, to regulate their power use. Okay. And in this way, we could try to flatten their low demand, then to reduce their electricity its cost. Yeah. And if we give flat rate is used, that would be beneficial for the young customers who don't have much resource to regulate your demand. But for the larger customers or for customers with more intelligent devices, you could use the standard part to be more perfect. But you have to manage the potential risk because the pricing is volatile. Mostly in 15 minutes compared. In that case, if you pre-schedule your demand, you have to forecast the future price, especially is 50 minutes. If your forecasting of the price is less accurate, then you have some risks. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'm going to AI all the questions. Just please.
My question is to Professor Yin. How significant do you see that coal-generated power will be in the long run in China? This is something about which we're having quite a debate in Australia. There's a lot of discussion about whether we should keep coal power generated open or use gas, or what do you see as the main source for those situations when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow?
That's a very important question. Thank you. If you look at the data in the last few years, although our renewable generation increases a lot, at the same time, our coal-based power plants, the generation also increase. The generation capacity also increase a lot. So, in my opinion, we try to utilize renewable energy to replace traditional electricity. Is not saying we have to use solar panels to replace these traditional power plants. My thinking is they have to stay there for a very long period of time. And it's also reflected in this year's, the third plenary session of CPC Central Committee conference, right? I emphasize there are two sentences there. The first sentence is we have to make sure efficiently using coal in the future. So as a base load, I think we are going to keep coal there for a very long period of time. And of course, we have other choices, for example, natural gas. But think about natural gas. China nowadays import, among the total consumption of natural gas in China, 40 to 50% we rely on international market. So if we totally switch to natural gas as a base load, we have some other consideration in this strategy, as you can imagine, right? So in conclusion, I would say our coal-based power plants will stay there. Will stay there. But we hope the efficiency will be improved and the carbon problem will be reduced. Thank you. That's just my personal opinion. And I'm very sleepy.
I think time's up. So let's thank our speakers.